Welcome to the channel. This time we are going to try and track down two-wheeler dealer cars. It's the 1972 Alfa Romeo Spider and the 1985 BMW 635CSI. Before we dive into the Alfa Romeo, a quick correction from last week. As you may remember, I might have had one or two glasses of wine before we did the video, and I went and said this.
Wheeler dealers have now got a £6,000 budget.
And that was wrong. The budget of 6,000 was just for the first episode for the Porsche, and for the rest of the series, it was 4,000. So Mike's gone out with this 4,000 budget and found this 1972 Alfa Romeo Spider Veloce. Now, it's left-hand drive, which, if you know about Spiders, the majority of them, and in some cases all the later ones, are virtually all left-hand drive. And this was a car that was originally sold in Italy before being imported to the UK, I think in 1999, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, Mike paid $2,200 for this, and it needed bodywork in the main. It had a dent in the front, which Ed sorted out. The paintwork at the front needed rubbing down. The bonnet showed blue underneath the red colour. So something had obviously happened there in the past. They fitted UK spec headlights, so they did left rather than right. And there was the issue with a bit of rust in the driver's footwell, so Ed plated that and repaired it. And finally gave the chrome a good polish, and it was ready for sale. So how did the numbers work out on this one? Now, bear in mind, this episode first went out in September 2006, so the numbers are from then. So, as I said, Mike paid $2,200 for it. The cost of all the repairs were $925, and then they eventually sold it for $4,500. So that gave them, what at that time was a healthy profit of $1,375. Now, let's fast forward to 2023. I'll get out my Practical Classics magazine and have a look in their price guide for a Condition 1 Alfa Romeo Spider of this era, and it gives me £17,000. Now, I was pulled up last time on the basis I hadn't allowed anything for the fact the Porsche 911 was left-hand drive, but in this case, majority of these Alfas are left-hand drive, so I think that's a fair price. So, increase-wise, that's $12,500 up on the original sale price back in 2006. Now, this is one of the cars that Ed went and revisited as part of their follow-up series. And when he went to see it in 2010, it had new carbs. It was generally sort of running and being looked after fairly well, but there was some rust coming through the arches, so it did need a little bit of work, but it was optimistic for the future. But let's get into the bit that you're really interested in. What's happened to that car after it finished with Wheeler dealers? Well, let's have a quick look. Let's see if AUF 170K has still got a pulse. So we go to our partner's My Car Check and do a search on the reg number, and yes, it's taxed. It's alive. We've got a live one again. It's been MOT'd, and we can look back from 2007 all the way through every year to 2017. Now, in 2018, it would have, under the new rules, been able to be MOT exempt. It could still be put in for a test, but it wasn't obligatory. It did have another MOT test in 2021, so it's still around and about. It's only done 8,000 miles since they had it on the program, so it's not done a lot. And through those MOT tests, it's had very few issues. Now, if we have a look, see what's been happening with it keeper-wise, the current keeper has only had it for just over a year, 18 months or so. They got it in January 2022. The previous owner was back in November 17, so someone's enjoyed it for a few years. But the interesting thing I found, because obviously they're the details I can find through My Car Check, I wanted to dig around and see what else I could find out had happened to it. And I was really struggling. But then our good old friends Pistonhead Forums came up with the goods. I found a post by P5-8, who I think we might have had a post from before, and they showed a link to a eBay advert for this car, which was back in January 2021. So that is quite a way before the most recent change of keeper. The car itself was up for sale for £30,000. It seems a lot, but let me do some digging for you, because I actually found the original ad from the dealer, and I'll put a link to it below so you can have a more of an investigation. This car had another comprehensive, more comprehensive restoration, which was completed in 2017. Now, it was stripped back to bare metal and had a full respray. It was done by a Pucker Alpha specialist, and there was over £10,000 spent on parts. Now, this restoration, or this time round, was completed in 2017, which ties in with the previous owner, and apparently the previous owner had, purchased it straight after restoration. So this car is in very, very good health. And there was one interesting little tidbit that we found out on the advert for this car. It does say that at the time of the original Wheeler Dealers program, all the way back in 2006, this car was actually owned by a production member, and it was their car that they were doing up, but they did actually sell it afterwards. So a little bit of done for TV work there again, but it is fantastic to see this car up and running and in such good condition. So this one should be good and out there for some time to come. Now on to our second car. Now this is one of the sort of favourite of mine. It's the BMW 635. This one's particularly a CSI model. Now this car Mike allegedly purchased for £2,000. Now I'm going to have to jump in with this one, because this is a comment that I've seen so many times on Piston Heads by a poster called Madman, who says that he actually worked for the company that sold Wheeler Dealers the car, sold it to the research team, and they sold it at that time for £2,900, even though the price reported in the program was £2,000, and allegedly had come from being purchased from somebody who had owned the car for some time. So I thought I'd get that one in there for you, Batman. Now, this car overall didn't look too bad, a little bit tired. It had some rather strange Canadian alloys on it. So they got it back to the workshop, and Ed starts to do his business on it. Now, he did a suspension refresh because there were a few worn out bits, mainly I think at the front. They tightened it up with a bit of what I think Mike calls engine bay bling, which was a strut brace. Some of the exhausts had to be replaced, and obviously there was those wheels were a problem, and Mike wanted to give the interior an uplift. So they went out and purchased for just £350 another BMW 635, which had a nice set of BBS alloys, and it had a nice leather interior. Now, one quick question you're going to ask is, what happened to this other car? Now, I had a little bit of work to do here, because they don't actually show the number plate all in one go, but I did manage to piece it together, and it was B459BRO, and that car, I've got no certificate of destruction for it, but it's not been taxed since 2002, so I think it's fairly safe to say that one's sort of gone and destroyed somewhere or another. Apparently, the reason they acquired it so cheap is it was suffering quite badly from rust. So Ed cracks on, swaps the interior over, swaps the wheels over. They get themselves a car together to up and sell. So how did the numbers work out? Again, just remind you, this is September 2006. Now the purchase price, and we'll stick with Mike's version of it, which was £2,000. They spent £1,060 on it, and then managed to sell the car for £3,700. Now that gave them a profit of £640. So one of their better days, I would argue. However, when you fast forward to 2023, get out Practical Classics magazine, have a look at their price guide, A Condition 1 635CSI now is listed at being about £18,500. So that's a £14,800 uplift. Those 635 BMWs, I really wish I'd got in when they were sensible money. They've gone right through the roof. Now, this car was also featured in the Wheeler Dealers Revisited series, and Edd tracked it down at a car show, and it was on to its second owner after it had been featured on the programme. And they'd actually sort of undone some of the work that Edd had done. They took the strut brake off because they didn't feel that was their, kind of thing. I think they probably wanted a more standard car. And, Edd gave it a drive, and it was still a good car. But of course, what you're really here is to find out what happened to B117PCC. Well, we go over to our partners, My Car Check, and see what one of their comprehensive checks tells us. Now, let's go to MOT, because that's always a sort of good heartbeat of what's happening with a car. And this one had MOT in 2006, skipped 2007, which is odd because that's just the year after the programme, but then had MOTs in 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, and then finally in 2014. Didn't seem to have that many issues with the MOT. There's a few sort of, bits and pieces that you would expect of a car of that age. And interestingly, over that whole period, it only done 6,000 miles since the programmer worked on the car. So it really hadn't done a lot. So I'm trying to dig around to find out a little bit more if I can of what's been happening with that car while it's been away after the program. Now, in the strangest of places, in a website called Clean My Car Forum, I found a post by a user called Bimmerfile, who, in the beginning of 2013, posted a link to an eBay advert. Now, strangely, I was able to get into this one before, but I haven't been able to subsequently to get many more details. There was no pictures with the ad, and I think this is because it's such an old eBay ad. And the description goes through to say that they've actually put new wheels and tyres on, and unfortunately, because we haven't got pictures, we can't actually see what they've put on it. And the timing of this, because if we go back to My Car Check, there was a change of owner in April 11, and then this one was in April 13. And the dates of this advert, it's the second one, it's the 2013. And interestingly, just 10 years ago, that car was up for 2,895. So that really has jumped a lot in those last 10 years. So what's happened to it since then? That's your answer. Go over to My Car Check, and it's been exported. In December 2014, it left these shores. I don't know where. Because it's a right-hand drive, if I had to guess, I think Ireland's possibly a reasonably good thought where it could have gone. But, as ever with all these car checks, it doesn't actually tell you what country it's gone to. So, if you can help us out and let us know, please, drop us a message or say something in the comments. That would be fantastic. I really hope you've enjoyed these two cars. And if you have, please give that subscribe button a bit of a click for us, because we're chasing down all the other Wheeler Dealer cars. And as you'll see, our midweek videos chase some other TV cars and try and find out what's happened to them. In the meantime, take care, everyone.